All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Sales Manager Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar. And as always, we talk about sales leadership, specifically when it comes into like the retail world, the wireless retail, boutique retail environments. We want to focus on what we can do as leaders to not just make our teams better, but also to make us better leaders for our teams. That's the most important thing. And it's one of the hardest things for a lot of people that don't have resources, which is what I see very often with smaller companies, is that the resources aren't there to fully assist everybody. Uh, and what I mean by that is, for instance, and I see this all the time, companies always looking externally for leadership positions. And I get it. There's larger companies that do this as well, but most of them don't actually hire externally unless it's a very strong referral. However, when it comes to a lot of smaller organizations that feel that they don't have the innate talent within the organization, even though they've had employees with them for years, uh, that's in my opinion, a red flag. Because what do you mean? You have employees that have been with your company for years, but you have no pipeline for leadership. That just means you're not training and developing your team to become the leaders that they are already, right? Remember the conversations of the first follower. If you don't know what the first follower is, they're the most underrated form of leadership that you have on your team and within your organization. So that's something very important to keep in mind. Uh, and we'll talk about that. I'll save that for another episode because it's a very big talking point. And honestly, it's more than just one single episode worth of talking points. Uh, but on that same page, what I do want to talk about today is group identity within your team, right? You as a leader having your teams actually have some kind of identity that they can relate to. In the past, I've used wolves, right? Uh, and I do that because of what the group mindset of being a wolf means. Wolves are not lone creatures, right? You might be thinking of coyotes um, or foxes, but wolves are pack creatures. They belong in a group. They work together to make sure that everything is strong, that the group is strong, and they watch out for everybody. And when you understand that, one, you understand the fallacy of the lone wolf mindset, right? You'll never use that again. That is the worst thing that you could ever do as a leader is think that the lone wolf exists. They don't. They hunt in packs. They are pack creatures. They're very social creatures as well, right? Uh, and that's the most important thing. So when you craft the identity for your team, you want to make sure it's something that you can rally everybody around, that they know it's capable of achieving goals and also understand, and this is one of the big things I think a lot of people don't incorporate and focus on, is making sure that it's a group identity, that whatever mascot you choose is also correlates to not individual contributions alone, but a team contribution, a team goal, a team focus. Because it's very rare, even when you have individual contributors, that the individual contributor does not contribute to the group as a whole. Think about that, right? You might be thinking, okay, well, your individuals, your Spartans, right? Your Vikings, they did not do things on their own. The strength that they had was as a group, as a collective. If you ever think of anything that you've ever related to in the past, I guarantee there was never a solitary creature. Maybe a tiger, right? I'll give you that one. Or like a mountain lion. They are solitary creatures, yes. Um, but most people would relate more to or want to be more like a lion than they would a tiger, right? Because they're a group, they're a pack animal. And that's the most important thing because when you start relating conversations to that, they start to understand, okay, it's not about just what I do, it's also what we do as a group. And you also start helping them take over leadership, right? Tasks, leadership responsibilities little by little because you're rotating people, right? That's the big thing. That's where you want to make sure that everybody understands it. And then also for you as a leader, it also puts you in the same frame of mind of understanding, okay, I can't do everything on my own. My team can't do everything on their own. There has to be support. I support them, they support me. I do not exist as a leader without them. They can exist as a pack without me because they'll just get a new pack leader. So that's the most important thing for a lot of people to realize that it's not just the sole individual. You want to have a group identity that encompasses everything from not just being a strong individual, but being stronger as a group than you are as a lone individual. Because that also allows them to have the courage and the confidence to seek out assistance, to want to get help, to know that it's okay for me not to know everything because I have somebody that can assist. And that's like the cool thing about that group identity. um, I've always used it at my store levels, the district levels as well, right? Wolves of Wireless was the ones that I use, and I would always incorporate it. So Wolves of Wireless of San Antonio, Wolves of Wireless of, Houston, North Houston, North, right? Um, Something along those lines. And obviously, if you want to use it, go for it, take it, right? Um, and even if some of the stuff that you see on my socials that you'll incorporate when it comes to sales, you'll still see the logo and the mascot of the wolf. And that's very intentional because of that mindset of being a pack animal, of working together, working as a group, working as a collective, um, and understanding that it's a mutual relationship that's beneficial for everybody involved. That's the big one, right? Um, it's similar to like the conversations you may have heard from a lot of people that worked in the military, have been in the military, um, or have read Leaders Eat Last, right? The pack leader doesn't lead from the front, they lead from the back. They make sure that even the weakest link is taken care of and protected. They have somebody else leading the pack from the front that they trust, and that rotates. That is the mindset that you want to have as a leader, that you are taking care of everybody. You are doing everything within your power to make sure even that your weakest link is still taken care of and can still be a big part of the pack, be a big part of the group. And some leaders fall under the manager category, where if you're not producing, I'm not going to do anything to assist. And, you know, if you can't figure it out, then I'm just going to bring somebody else in. And you have a lot of churn. You end up going through a lot of people, and then you have a bad reputation of, you know, yeah, this person can't hire well as a leader, right? This person can't hire well, they can't interview well, they don't train well. I've stepped in for people like those to do their interviews, to do their trainings, because they may have had another facet, right? Mainly working in their favor, like they've been with the company for a long time, or they were, so and so's top seller, and that's the reason why they're in this position now, because you know they're in good with somebody at a different executive level. So it's very tough to discipline them or to get them moved out. It sucks. It happens. I've seen it. I've been in those situations in the past. And the only thing you can do is push forward. And when you show that, hey, things are going to be different, things can be different, we don't have to continue to struggle with the way this individual has been struggling, and everybody else is much happier. Hey, those individuals are going to find their way out real, real fast. And you have to be able to bring that to the table to showcase. You give those people the opportunity to get better. If they don't get better, then something's got to give, right? The whole concept of change the people or change the people. And you can't force somebody to change if they don't want to. I get that concept. If this is not a right fit for you, hey, that's okay. I don't want to force you to stay here. Uh, if you're going to be part of the team needs you. This is what I can do to assist you. Let's work together. And remember the conversation I had yesterday about making sure that your people understand you as a leader want them to make the most amount of money possible with the least amount of work required. That shifts their mindset. Because I've seen it. The other day I was at a Best Buy store picking something up, and I just happened to glance over in the back area, right? Because it's right there in your face while you're at the checkout lane. And I see a sign, don't stand still if you're not busy. There's always something to do. Do this. And if you don't have that, do this. And if you don't have that, do this. It's like, okay, that is definitely not leadership. It's not, right? That's just, if you don't have this done, then whatever. And it sucks for the individuals because it's like, okay, what else is there to do? Like, how am I going to take responsibility for the stuff that I can take responsibility for, right? How can I do the things? Because maybe the way you're telling me, you showed me once, or I saw it in a video once, and I was never told again about this. So I really don't understand what this means. And you're writing me up for the first time. We've never had this conversation before. And I guarantee you it goes something like that, right? We've never had this conversation before, and you're writing me up over something that I did not know how to do well. And I was doing it to the best of my ability, but you never gave me proper actual training. You never inspected what you expected out of this. We just had some visit and you got chewed out over it. I thought I was doing a good job. And you've seen me doing this. I've seen it countless times, not just at big box retailers. I've seen it in small organizations too, where the local leaders don't inspect what they expect. There is no want from the team members to belong to the group because there is no group identity. They're just there, right? There is no, we feel good about working here. We just work here. And as a leader, you want to make your team feel good about working there. Maybe they're not the happiest about what they're making. Maybe they want to make more. I get that. It doesn't mean that they have to be completely unhappy with where they work. They just may be unhappy about some of the results they're getting. And what can we do to change the results? We're talking about sales-based, commission-based roles where you get either full commission or base plus commission. And when you as a leader tell your team that I want you to make the most amount of money working the least amount as possible. What employee is going to tell you, no, I want to work more and make less? They become a little bit more receptive because now they're curious. And as they become curious and they understand the mindset, for instance, we talked about my groups have always been some form of another of the wolf pack. No, not because of our, wolves of Wall Street, none of that. Because the pack identity of the wolves. They work together as a team, as a collective. They train together. They teach their youngs, from a young age, how to do what they do as a pack. Um, and that's the biggest thing, right? When you bring somebody into your pack, what are you doing to make sure that they belong? Are you giving them the proper attention, the proper training and development to ensure that they actually will want to belong, right? That they won't stray from the performance or from the pack. And I get it, things in life happen. That's not what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about when everything else is normal. What are you doing? If you're just bringing them into the pack, being like, cool, you'll see me every 2, 3 weeks, and that's it, and you're done. What, how do they belong to the group? What are they going to be doing to the group? Are they doing things that they're supposed to? Are they being trained properly? Are they being developed properly? Right? We're talking about you as a leader who has these check-ins, and you should be seeing your locations once every week, if not 2 weeks at the least. Okay. You don't have to be working 60, 70 hours a week to have a team that can perform well when they feel that they belong, when they feel that they are being taken care of. They want to perform. They want to be there. And those are going to be the people that will do well, very, very well, with not just the organization, but also with their development. They're going to want to be part of what is happening. And then when they get the opportunity to be able to step up into roles, right? They will take those responsibilities. They will step into those roles. I mentioned it earlier today, right? When we're talking about companies that don't have the leadership pipeline. What the fuck do you mean you got employees that have been with you 5, 10 years and you have no leadership pipeline? It means that you have no training and development going on. You have the leadership pipeline. I guarantee you, they've been around that long. You have a few people that would love to step up into those roles. But because there's no training and development, and not just their level, but also at the DM level, because I get it, there's a lot of DMs out there that don't want to lose people. Because I don't want to have to replace somebody. I don't want to have to train and develop. This store is doing so well. I don't want them to leave. You'd be surprised how often that happens. It sucks to be in those teams because your leader is keeping you there. Your manager is keeping you from getting promoted, right? Because whenever somebody comes over and it's like, well, they've been there, their numbers, yeah, but this, but that, but that. So they're not giving them the recommendation. Take it from somebody who had one of their top, local leaders taken care of or taken out and moved into a different role, right? Glad he was promoted. But at the worst time for me, which was fourth quarter, the month of December, yeah, right? Obviously, it's not like I can find somebody. It's not like they gave me 2, 3 weeks notice to be able to get everything going. It's like, no, we need this position filled ASAP. Uh, we want him interviewed, boom, boom, within a week, got the letter, right? Got the call, got the letter. But that's what I mean. If you are doing well as a leader, you have a pipeline for leadership. I had just taken over that role not too long ago. I had brought that person in, right? I shit you not. The way that I transformed that territory in less than 4 months, that's how long it took. Within 4 months, actually, I think it was within his 3 months, went from a store manager to a DM. And that obviously didn't give me enough time because I had just taken over that territory to move somebody and have that pipeline built up because it does take time to build up that pipeline. Once you have it set up, though, you have people that can step up into roles. I had been asked after that period multiple times, right? If I had people in my territory that can take up leadership roles. And I always did. And they would go help out and assist, right? As kind of like a trial run because they had somebody out for a few weeks. And boom, it's like, hey, I got you taken care of. Uh, this location, if you're willing to do it, let me know. I'll put in the word for you. Boom. I got somebody out of my location taking up a leadership role as on a trial basis while somebody was out on leave. Hey, came back, no stores available, but I was able to get an assistant role created for him. There's opportunities available. And when your team sees that you're pushing through and making things happen for them, there's a lot that can happen. But you as a leader have to push for that. Nothing is set in stone in the business world. And I think that's where a lot of people forget. You'd be surprised how often positions are created to keep people within an organization because they want more responsibility. Maybe they're happy with what they're making, they just want a different venue change. I've seen where people go from, the front lines and they want something different, something that's going to challenge them and give them a different career path because they don't want to go into a DM or RD role, right? Regional director role. They want to go somewhere on the admin side. So they get transitioned over there, they get trained, taught up, right? They shadow somebody for a little bit. And because they have tribal knowledge, you guys continuously hear me say tribal knowledge. Tribal knowledge is very important to any organization because it doesn't matter what you think about your SOPs. There's always information that's not included in those SOPs that makes it very difficult to actually run a company when people don't know what the actual tribal knowledge is, what the actual true processes are. Because it's very difficult. It changes over time, right? Uh, and a, a lot of companies, doesn't matter if you're small, doesn't matter if you're a multi-billion-dollar company, everybody's known to do this. SOPs are updated, but they're not updated properly. So a lot of people pull SOPs And unfortunately, it's not the right SOP. It's an older SOP that's outdated, but they don't know. You don't know what you don't know. I completely get that. Tribal knowledge is very important for that reason. Now, don't get me wrong, there are ways to make sure that those SOPs are properly done. My biggest thing that I'm a fan of is making sure when it's become outdated, you don't want to get rid of it completely because you still need some stuff to be archived because you need to know like what happened in the past. Literally, just put a freaking watermark over it, right? And on the page it belonged to, outdated or no longer used, right? See version, whatever. That way they know, oh, okay, this is where I need to go. Boom. It doesn't take that long. It just, not a lot of people do it. Not a lot of people think about that. But it's one tiny little thing that makes a huge difference to make sure that your admins, your operation side is solid. It's good. No issues, right? No worries there. But going back to having your group identity, it is big. Now, I was never a fan of having my team fight with my team. And you guys will see that where you're doing like a store versus store, because it really does create a us versus them mindset. That is a huge thing too. That's the reason why you want to have a group identity, because you don't want to have people thinking that it's my store versus that store in my own district. There's competitions, I get that. You want to make sure that everybody comes off on top. But for me, and I always told my team, my biggest focus is not competing against one another. That's not how we become better at what we do. That's not how we become great at numbers. We are taking out this district. And I let them know, right? This is who we're going after. This is who we're going to call out. I will call out for you guys. And if you guys call them out yourselves, love it. Okay. You don't have to. I will call them out for you. But if you got the courage to do it, if you want to showcase, if you want to get seen, guarantee you call them out, tell them that you're going to beat them and actually deliver on it. It means something else. And then you really get that us mindset. And this really has something to do, and they work together very well with this. Okay. And there's a psychological reason. There's studies done. One of the biggest or most famous studies was the one where it was a camp group and trying to get the teams to work together. They couldn't really see it because they had individualized everybody, right? So each cabin essentially was fighting against each cabin. And then they decided, well, how can we get everybody to work together, to not be against each other? And it was having them do activities together where it wasn't an us versus them, right? It was us doing things together. When you're working with your teams and you start developing that and you stop pitting them against each other, that's when you start to see results and you start to see better buying from your team. Because when you pit them against each other within your own district, you're getting them to fight against one another. And that's what you don't want. You want them to work together because when they work together, that is when they bring better ideas. That's when they're willing to want to help one another. And it also allows you to start taking a step back because they will reach out to each other to handle things that honestly you don't need to constantly be involved with. You as a DM, if you are constantly fielding calls from your teams on how to do stuff, how to, am I doing this correctly? Before they've even reached out to one of their other peers, you're the bottleneck. You need to build a system. You don't build a system by being the bottleneck. You're just stuck being an employee instead of being a leader. I've always viewed being the DM as being the owner of a very small business. And my goal was always, what can I do to take myself out and make sure this still runs so that I can bring in more value through other means, right? I can focus more on training and developing, finding other venues of getting candidates, finding venues to get more business from the community, right? Reach out to other partners, work on different initiatives within the organization to expand what we're doing. Okay. That's super important. If you get stuck in the minutia of doing everything on a daily basis, one, as a DM, you're never going to grow because you are the freaking bottleneck within your growth. The organization sees that, yeah, you're doing well, but that district doesn't run without you. When you go on vacation, it's fucked. So why would I want to promote you? Now, if you run a district and it runs well when you go on vacation, hey, what are you doing? Let us do that somewhere else. Can you train others to do that? Can you bring that to another territory? That's when you become promotable. And that does all begin too when you have a sense of identity. There's another part to this, right? Which does help people create not only the sense of identity, but as a leader gives you direction as to why you want to be a leader, why you want to create a sense of identity within your group. And we'll talk about that next week. And I'll go into a little bit more detail. That one will actually be more of a practice session because that one does require a little bit more things to write down, what you want to focus on. Um, that one's a little bit exciting, right? You're creating your essentially mission statement. I'm a very big proponent on it. I wasn't joking when I said when I took over the DM role, I started focusing on ways to run it as a business, as a small business to take myself out of it. And that's one of the reasons too that the teams were able to grow and expand in multiple territories that I managed and that I led, instead of me being the bottleneck within that organization, within those districts, within those teams. So, guys, I want to say thank you once again for stepping in and listening to my 2 cents when it comes to leadership. Any questions that you guys have, feel free, shoot me a DM, comment on any of the videos. Let me know what your thoughts are, right? And I'll catch you on the next one. Enjoy the weekend, guys.